Hey everybody, welcome back to OldBeardedGaming. We are here with a brand new series. We're playing Vault Hunter. You might have heard of it. It's pretty popular. I know you have. This is going to be a fun time. We are doing the first 100 days in this episode, so let's get right into it with day one. Day one actually started out as live narration, but we would scrap that format, mostly because in 45 minutes of video recording, it was just me complaining about things. But don't take my word for it. For your audible and viewing pleasure, take a look at some of the highlights from that first day. Ugh. Let's get this going, and then we need to turn down the music volume. Oh, we've got some settings to change for sure. Welcome to Vault Hunters. Please make sure to visit. Great website, by the way. A couple things we're going to need to change right off the bat, but I don't want to get just stuck out here in the open. We're going to let this render a little bit here. Ooh. I'm so used to the older version of the map system that in playing RLCraft, which is limited to the 1.12 update, that this is pretty looking. Very cool. I want to move this stuff. How do we get into those settings again? Well, maybe it's in here. Oh yeah, there's a cog. Look at that. Minimap settings. There we go. Oh, before this kills me, hold on. Options, sound, music and sound. And we're just going to scale that back 50%. Done and done. Boy, that's still loud. Options. Let's go down to 15. Oh, we made a waypoint. Alright, well, I guess we will... You know what? It's probably best if we just go and look at the actual controls. I want to edit you. How do we do that? Let's see here. I'll bet it's probably... What is this? Controls. Okay. I can live with that. This. Why am I getting tooltips? We do not need to know how to move around in this game. This is what I want to modify here. Let's go to the... Oh, install the configured mod to access in-game config. Okay, so I can't even change it from there. Oh, we are definitely going to be making some changes to our view and whatnot. It isn't as smooth as I was kind of hoping for. In fact, our FOV is like really jacked up. Do I want it Quake Pro, maybe? That's a little bit better than what I'm accustomed to. What is this? Just literally pumpkin? Okay. A lot of pumpkin. Like, a lot. Just an aggressive amount of pumpkins in this biome. All the usual good beginning Minecraft stuff that I don't know why I just sat there and broke that without a tool. Yeah, common sense eludes me, I guess. Oh, no Optifine, no zoom. Okay, that's cool. Day two would finally arrive and we would quit complaining and start getting down to business. And by business, I mean taking a look at what this mod pack has to offer. We have skills, abilities, talents, research. A lot of it you can't really do anything with until you actually beat the vanilla experience, but you are given 5 skill points, and we put those to good use in experience, haste, and of course, twerking. Yeah, it's a thing. You crouch down in front of crops and it makes them grow, I guess. You don't even have to twerk with it. You just hold it down and it works. Though I am a little bummed that I didn't put at least 1 point into vein mining. It certainly would have been handy. Exploration happened that evening. We came across a ruined portal. And, of course, we're immediately back into playing Inventory Manager. It doesn't seem to matter what game I play. This always pops up as one of the games within the games. I guess it's just the way producers are nowadays. I'm sure the problem has nothing with me being a pack rat. At any rate, at the dawn of day 3, we would come across a village. I'd get so excited I'd jump out of my boat. Oh yeah, and we installed Optifine, an absolute must, plus a couple of other mods that are linked in the video description to improve our FPS to just about 350 on average. Having a 3090 doesn't suck. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. We'd pretty quickly leave that first village, though, in favor of finding food and exploration, which led us to another village. This one kind of sucked. It was stuck in the middle of a seasonal forest. Everything just always looks dead here. I didn't want to stay for too long, so we left. Or rather, we left after we looted everything worth taking. All of their food. I'm sure they needed it for the winter, but you know what? I need it more, so it's mine. We'd come across a third village, and at this point, my inventory was absolutely killing me. I said, it doesn't really matter how bad this town sucks, we're going to make it a home. As it turns out, it's really not that bad of a location, although the town itself was kind of janky. There's some missing parts, and the pathways kind of lead over and through these ravines. It's a little complicated, and it's going to take a lot of terraforming. And I don't know why I decided to stay here, other than, well, I like a challenge. But even more than a challenge, what I like most is cool stuff. And this village had some pretty neat features, including what appears to be a giant space rock? A meteorite, I guess? I don't know. It looks pretty cool. I've never seen it before. It must be unique to this mod pack. We'll check that out later for sure. But first, we're going to get set up with building a base. Now, I don't even know what day we're on because I didn't have the foresight to turn on days on the mini-map below. But it'll be some time before we actually get back into the counter of it. Just understand that this is somewhere between days 4 through maybe 80-ish or so. We'll get caught up soon enough. Don't worry. Base design usually isn't my thing, but I had a little bit of inspiration here. I kind of thought it would be neat to finish off this path and then build a base around it so that the base kind of straddled this path leading back into the town, eventually build a bridge to connect over there. And here's where quite a few days get numbered up. This took a long time to terraform, but it started to come together pretty quickly once we got the foundation laid. Maybe 1 or 2 weeks in, it's hard to tell at this point, but converting cobblestone into the brick you see there gave us kind of the foundation for at least the first floor, and we were off to a pretty good start. I was really digging the flow of this, just being able to go from outside, little cave entrance, to eventually over to the other side of town. Now, I'll be the first one to admit I probably spent way too many days putting little touches on this building. I don't know if that's a side effect of getting old, but something inside of me said, you know what? We need this thing to be right and proper and symmetrical. I know, asymmetry looks more natural, but you'll see and observe me spending way too much time doing the math on something relatively simple here to try to figure out how to evenly space out my windows. The jury's still out, but this might actually end up making me a better vault hunter. I'm not quite sure yet. Regardless, I wanted to build once and not have to really touch it that much more again, and that meant planning ahead and leaving enough space to be able to accommodate everything that I was looking to do. First and foremost, I wanted to start getting the quote-unquote farming going, and that meant building a second story, getting up top, getting a roof done over this first layer so that we can move the villagers upstairs. If you haven't noticed, villagers make an awful lot of noise, and I just simply didn't want them down here with me. Villagers in this mod pack are pretty cool. With the Easy Villagers mob, you simply walk up to one empty-handed, ask, "Would you like to be my friend?" and then right-click, and they say yes, every single time. It's pretty cool. What's not cool and is downright disturbing is that they continue to talk to you while they're sitting in your inventory. Ugh. But pushing through that nightmare fuel, going back to the old villages that we had come across and repositioning their population, if you will, for my own personal gain and needs, took a little bit of time. I don't remember exactly how many days it was, but there were a lot of villagers out there. Another cool thing about the villagers is that it really doesn't matter what their current occupation or profession is, because none of that matters. Once you place them in their holding cell, they become whatever it is that you want them to be. And so long as you haven't traded with them before, you're capable of cycling through their trades. It's a pretty neat system. Back at the base on day whatever day it is, I said I was going to build a bridge. And so we did. We built a bridge. Nothing really exciting here and nothing too aesthetic. It's just functional. You'll find a lot of the things that I build to be functional, and that's just about it. It's not going to win any prizes, but it's going to get the job done. And speaking of getting the job done, yes, I did baby-proof this bridge, because honestly, I just can't be trusted in high places. Maybe it's the RLCraft experience in me, but I don't really like to die for unnecessary reasons, and falling off of a bridge of my own making would definitely be an unnecessary reason. So we put the fencing in. We'd also get busy with putting in the roof, or the floor, I guess, depending on your perspective. Either way, it had me really wishing that I had dedicated 1 point into vein mining instead of so many into experience. Lesson learned. Now don't judge me for the form or functionality, or lack thereof, with these holding pens, because they're going to go through quite a lot of different revisions over the next several weeks of gameplay. What is important to take note of is how cool the hoe is. Hoes are functional in this Vault Hunters mod pack. In fact, they will, if you right click on them, hoe out, that's a weird phrase, a 3x3 grid and automatically replant for you. Now that's super cool and efficient. Combined with twerking, yes, that's what all the green sparkles on the screen are, it's just a fast way to making unlimited emeralds. So much so that it was time to expand our holding cells. I mean, our job relocation service offices? Either way, we were going to get some more villagers in here so we could start getting some diamond tools and armor. And this process is pretty quick. So long as you have 4 farmers committed to the trading, you can get a full stack of 64 emeralds before everybody locks out their trades. That's pretty efficient. It'll definitely fund you with enough venture capital to be able to go over and start expanding on your tool and armor smiths. It's time to get some diamond armor. They're not going to have the best enchantments, but we really don't care about that, because we can also make unlimited librarians and hand choose what their starting trade book is from, yes, the complete entire enchantment library. It's a little OP. What's not OP is all of these sparkles and particle effects on the screen from twerking. You can turn those off by going to, well, that setting and saying particles minimum. You're welcome. Your video card thanks you as well. We actually crashed the game twice while recording this one little segment. It wasn't pretty. But going back to what is pretty, being able to hand choose your starting trade and enchantment book is just way too awesome. But you're going to need a lot of librarians. And my thought process was, well, okay, we're going to need to make a lot more books so we can make bookshelves, so we can in turn then make more lecterns. So I had an idea. Seeing as how books are made of leather, I was going to need more cows, and so I went out on a night mission, channeling my best Solid Snake from Metal Gear to try to bring these 2 cows to a holding pen that I had built. Sadly, I was channeling the wrong game. What I should have channeled was The Witcher, because I came across an entire horde of zombies. Hadn't really seen one of these in quite some time. It's surprising how overwhelming things can get when you're tethered to 2 relatively slow cows, and the little zombies just kind of keep coming for you. Worst off is you don't realize just how loud an entire horde of zombies can be. My goodness, are they loud. It made it very difficult to even hear this skeleton, and it was at this point that I decided to go ahead and just nope on out of here. I'm not dying for a side of beef. I didn't really see this as a defeat though. We had already built the pen, and coming back in the morning when the zombies and skeletons wouldn't be around would be no big deal. Just hopefully they survived and that my leads were still sitting out there for me to collect, which they were. So we would go ahead and get a pretty good night's rest, go back out in the morning, bring our 2 cows home, and start the process of breeding them up. Win all the way around. Well, not quite a win. When I was putting a roof on over the 2nd story, to protect the villagers from thunderstorms, and looking out over the herd of cows that were now mine, I had an epiphany. I realized that I can just cycle through the trades of my librarians, and they straight up just sell bookshelves, absolutely invalidating the entire previous night's journey and adventure. I am an idiot. At this point, I'm just hoping later on down the road, I'm going to need leather for something else. Now, one of the downsides of picking up and taking with you every single villager that you come across from every village that you travel to is eventually you're going to run out of villagers. So, keep a couple left behind and set up a breeding station. Breeding villagers in Vault Hunters is the same as it has been for any version of 1.16.5, and that's simply fill their inventories with food and then maybe they'll be in the mood to reproduce, so long as they have enough beds. I still don't understand why we can't breed villagers the same way we do animals. Just shove a piece of cake in each one of their mouths until hearts appear. That seems way more efficient. But no, we've got to fill their inventories with all kinds of food. I guess the villagers also enjoy playing Inventory Manager 2022. It's a very weird system, but whatever. It works for them, I guess. I'm not here to judge. I lied. I am judging them. Judgments aside, the system was working, so we'd start the next day with our routine feeding, and we'd be free to go ahead and expand our librarian population. This is easily one of my favorite aspects of Vault Hunters, is that even though it makes you pay homage to the original vanilla experience and have to beat the End Dragon to be able to actually get into the bulk of the Vault Hunter experience, it gives you a nice quality of life updates to be able to make that journey pretty quick and somewhat painless. I will say it is pretty amusing that you don't realize just exactly how many enchantments you're going to want or need until you actually start putting villagers in beds. That's not to say that everything goes exactly according to how you plan it. As we're going to find out here, this farmer, well, he really didn't want to accept his new lot in life. Now there's a couple things that can keep a villager from changing professions when you're doing this sort of a setup. If you notice, he's really adamant about trying to go out of this cell, meaning he's trying to pathfind to somewhere. But that's okay. We've got a potential fix for this. What you need to do is get yourself a couple of really sturdy bricks. And for him, it's time for the gulag. First, start by taunting them by eating food in front of them, knowing that they're not going to eat for a while. And then, completely obstruct their view, enclosing them in a 1x3 cell with no light. That'll teach them. And while we're teaching, let's go ahead and drop this pro tip for you. You can go into your controls and actually bind a hotkey to cycle through the trades of these villagers. It saves so much time moving that mouse a 1/4 inch on your screen back and forth between the refresh button and to try to identify what their book trade is. Now all you got to do is hover your mouse over the trades and hit that binded hotkey. So much faster, and honestly, I don't get the vertigo of going back and forth and moving my head following the mouse around. That was getting horrible. I did notice that I would spend a good number of days kind of redecorating the place and playing around with different configurations for how I wanted the villager holding pen to look. Now I know it doesn't serve any functional purpose, but you know, it's important to take pride in how your base looks. And honestly, by removing this outer header of fences, it kind of freed up some headspace and made things feel a little bit less claustrophobic. I would actually end up going around and doing this to all of the villager pens, including the farmers and the tradesmiths. A little bit of foreshadowing, the reason we mention all of this is because, believe it or not, it actually does have an impact to functionality, at least as it pertains to farmers. I'll show you what we mean in a moment. But for now, let's go do something else completely random. I decided, you know what, I need an iron farm, and my initial build didn't really quite go according to plan. It worked, it spawned golems, but I didn't completely spawn-proof the area in the way that I needed to. We'll get into the details of how this iron farm is built in just a few moments, but for the most part, you've got to make sure that you spawn-proof the area around where your villagers and your zombie are going to be. And that means usually an 8-block radius out from either the zombie or the villager. I can't quite tell which one it is, but so long as you meet that requirement, you're probably going to be pretty safe. Now the initial build works, and you can see a pile of iron ingots down there and some poppies. But it's not overtly efficient. You see, the guy spawns and he floats around in the water and then eventually suffocates in these blocks that are floating in midair here. It's functional, but it's not super fast. So let's get into this build. Basically, you dig a trench about 7 blocks down, 3 blocks wide. And once you get down to the bottom, you're going to turn and hollow out this area into a 3x3 little holding room. And this is where your beds are going to go. Now once we get this hollowed out, we're going to need a trapdoor and 2 slabs. The trapdoor is going to go right in the center on the top of that block. And then you're going to put your slabs on either side, staying in the middle but on the bottom side. And this is going to keep the line of sight available for the zombie when they're looking at the villager. Next, you're going to take your beds, 3 of them, and you're going to place them like so the pillows are facing towards the trapdoor. Once you're done with that, you're going to dig out 2 blocks in, And in the middle one, you're going to dig an additional block high, so you have room to jump. The next step is going to be getting some stairs going, and you're going to dig straight up, one block in, before you start your climb upwards. It's important then that each one of these steps has a torch placed on it to be able to spawn-proof it. Once that's done, you're going to come into the little middle section here where we dug that extra set of blocks high, aim right down at the middle, jump to test, and place your boat so that it is facing that direction. Very important. Continue to dig your way up, and in our case we preset some trapdoors so we would know when our stairs met exactly where we wanted it to. We did the math right on this one. It's exactly where it should be. Once you exit the hole, you're going to fill in the blocks around and make sure that your trapdoor is actually set to open. And this will be very important because the next step is luring a zombie in there after we get our villagers down. Also important to make sure you go back and fill in at least the top of the hole of where you started to dig down in. The spawn pen is a 5x9 area with water in the corners so that everything flows to this one central block here. We're doing an upgrade on this particular version of the farm. Yes, this is the second one. We have two side by side and they work perfectly fine this way. In this case, what we're going to do is place a hopper there in what was that dry block and have it point towards a double chest for collection. Additionally, we'll build some stairs coming down, and we've got a ladder in the corner for us to be able to jump out of here should we find ourselves in the holding pen. Now just to build it up around, because we have this water here, make it nice, you know, as you do. And then build some stairs going down to that location where we're going to place our hopper and chests. It's also important to put torches down around this area as well, because this is in the spawn field of where potentially those iron golems can be. Now for the final touches on our upgrade here. We're going to put a slab here on that bottom one, and then fill in the block above. After that, we're going to put a temporary block just in front of where that hopper is, and then we're going to place a gate on top of that and open it up so that the iron golem can flow in through it. We forgot to bring the gate, so we had to go back and make one. Not a big deal. I know, we get forgetful in our old age. It happens. It's going to happen to you. Don't think it doesn't. We even temporarily forget the recipe for building a gate, but we get it figured out and sorted. Getting old sucks. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. So like I said, we're now going to place the gate on top of the temporary block, open it up, and remove the temporary block. After that, we're going to hang some signs on either side, and we're going to place a third sign on the front of that slab. Making sure that we get it on that slab, we're then going to place another sign on top of the gate. We actually missed placing our sign on said slab, so we had to go back and redo it. And there we have it. That is what it should look like. Now a nice little piece of lava will fit right there on top of that bottom sign, and it won't set anything on fire because, well, Minecraft physics. That's why. Aim for just the top of that bottom sign, and there we go. The kill chamber is set, and you can see it killing an iron golem in the distance there in the first farm that we had built. It's also been upgraded. So now it's time to go back and get this one primed. We need to add our villagers, and then eventually we need to go and get our zombie and lure them over into the boat. Now coming back down in here, if you happen to nudge the boat, it's okay, but you can just pick up the boat so that you can replace it. The placement of this boat is somewhat crucial and critical. It needs to be pretty center between those two blocks when you're looking straight down at the ground. I'll show you here in a second what the repositioning looks like. But I know when I came down these stairs, I did nudge that boat. We're going to need to reposition it anyways. So like I said, grab your boat after you get your villagers placed, aim for the very center between those two blocks, looking straight down, jump and place, and that's pretty good and centered. Now it's time to get a zombie to make the whole setup complete. You can of course just wait for one to spawn, or if you're lucky like me, you have a zombie spawner somewhere nearby. This guy is actually directly underneath my base, and I found it while I was mining. I'm not sure if there's a unique system for spawners and vault hunters. I think there is, but I haven't really read anything about it yet. This guy's spinning pretty slow in here, so it's taken a little while for one to spawn. I guess I should probably check into that. At any rate, we'd get one to spawn, and we'd lure him back over towards our trap. Just walk slowly so he keeps interest, and lure him over towards where those open trap doors are in the ground. And just like that, you got yourself a zombie. Close the trap door, and he'll work his way down towards those villagers, eventually getting stuck in the boat. The reason we use a boat is because it's so much easier than name tags, and they won't despawn. Now, as you can see from where those trap doors are oriented, I am not filled in 8 blocks out from the center of that line. And I'm certainly not 8 blocks back from about where that zombie is in the boat to where that iron golem spawned over there in the water. We've got a couple ways to fix this. I chose to dig it out, making it completely full of water so that he couldn't spawn in there anymore. The next day we'd come back and check the trap, and I still had golem spawning over there off towards the left-hand side. We'd push this guy into the other trap and go back and fill in some of the holes. In terms of fill, you just need to be able to fill it all the way up to the surface of where you first originally dug down. That seems to stop anything from spawning up at this level. I guess technically if you wanted to, you could do the math and build a 16 by 16 fence around the dead center of where that zombie is sitting in the boat. So now that the iron was flowing in and the farm was working, I decided to go ahead and take a peek at a game setting on the mini-map of something that I should have changed a long time ago, and that was adding the day to the time. And would you look at that, it's already day 82. What the heck have I been doing with all of my time? It's time to kick things up a notch and get to trading. The problem was the farmers were on strike. None of them wanted to trade, and it had been several days since we had maxed out their trades. None of them had refreshed. Something was wrong. Remember when I said that the aesthetics actually kind of had some functional purpose? Well, as it turns out, when it pertains to these farmers, if you have your composting stations set so that they can't actually get to them, then you can lock out their trades over a period of time. And that's what happened here. We'd go, we'd sleep after refreshing their compost stations, and it didn't make any difference. They still hadn't unlocked their trades. It was here, when I was breaking their compost stations again, that I realized they couldn't actually move forward from off of that bed because of that fence. The fix here is to give them access to the composting station. So we'd place the block back and remove the fence and just simply move it out 1 block. This way they'd be able to stand on top, or in many cases in, their composting station, and they'd actually start interacting with it. I think the technical explanation here, and I am not sure, if somebody absolutely knows, please comment down in the comment section below. I think they have to eventually bleed themselves off of the quantity of inventory that they have. You see, we keep giving them all these carrots, and they don't have anything to do with the carrots. So, by breaking this and giving them access to the composting station, periodically you will now see them using the composter, and lo and behold, they are throwing carrots into it. I think that's necessary for them to be able to free up enough inventory space so that you can continue with your trades. 2 out of the 4 immediately freed up their inventory, and the other 2 wouldn't take long to follow. With the trade crisis averted, it was time to get busy. We've already squandered so much time, it's day 83. We'd built a portal to the nether inside of one of the empty villager houses. Well, they weren't going to use it, they've been repurposed. And I figured this was a pretty safe way to keep the portal up all the time and not really have things bleed out into the overworld. Time to light this fuse and go see what things look like on the other side. As it would turn out, the other side kind of sucks. It's a soul sand valley, and there were a lot of zombified piglins all around. What wasn't around was a nether fortress or a bastion or anything really cool. Believe it or not, all of this that we've been doing for the last several weeks in game time has been about getting some blaze rods so we can brew some potions so that we could then turn some of our traders into zombified villagers and cure them so we can get more favorable trades and get way more emeralds. You know, typical Minecraft stuff. Well, it was going to take some time. In fact, we won't do it in this first 100 days of getting any blaze rods. We got to figure out what we're going to do over here. So we'd go back to the overworld, and lo and behold, those zombified piglins actually made their way through, and out the door, and reclosed the door. I am pretty confident I had that door closed behind me. I guess that doesn't work nearly as good as I thought. Day 84, and we'd build ourselves a little mine down to the ground and get our first piece of ancient debris. Now I have a new idea. We'd spend all of 83 and most of day 84 hand mining everything out down here, and boy does that suck. Not only does it suck, but it's not overtly lucrative. We didn't find any more ancient debris by doing this, even with turning on the chunk borders. And my pickaxe was going to get dangerously low. Like, really fast. It just does not take that much time. Fun little side note, you saw some dimensional ore sitting there. Those seem to spawn exactly in the corners of the chunk borders. I don't know if that's by design, but it's pretty handy. Day 85, and I decide, you know what? I need a garbage disposal system. So, what does that mean? Piece of lava and a hole in the ground. We pour. That's what you get. But it gets rid of a lot of this netherrack that I just cannot keep from picking up. I cannot wait till we get into some of the inventory benefits of satchels and backpacks and filter systems. Oh, it's going to be glorious. But we're getting the cart before the horse. In my case, it's not about horses, it's about sheep. And we'd need to clear some space out because you know what? I need to get an automated wool system farm going. So we'd clear some space here on day 85 and lay the groundwork for what will be a rather glorious setup. I'm going to tell you now, my only regret is building this so close to where my bed actually is, which is in the corner right there of the base. Who picked this base location anyways? The automated wool farm is pretty straightforward, and you've probably seen a number of videos on them in the past, so I'm not going to go into tremendous detail here, but essentially we build these little holding pens surrounded by grass blocks so that when a sheep gets pushed in, we've got a dispenser set up, and we're going to prime those dispensers with shears. Underneath the dispensers, we're going to have an observer, and it's going to be facing a plain dirt block. The reason that this all works is because then once the sheep eats the piece of grass, the observer will say, hey, that looks like plain dirt, and then that's going to trigger the dispenser to go ahead and use the shears on the sheep, causing the wool to just simply be in that little enclosed space. We don't need any hoppers for this because when we put a minecart with a hopper underneath the block that the sheep is standing on, it will automatically pull it down through the dirt and feed into the Minecraft with the hopper. That then travels back and forth over a rail system, which in turn does have a hopper that feeds into a chest, and every time it goes over the hopper, it's dropping another piece of the wool. On the back end of the observers, we also place just a stone block, and we prime it with redstone. This provides the power for the system, and everything works nice and neat. It's actually a really great little system. The system actually works too good that I had to convert my villager breeder into a sheep breeder, and even that wasn't working fast enough. We'd have to go out into the wild to convince more sheep to return to a life of servitude. Finding sheep, or really any animal in a taiga, is not easy. The trees are tall and the grass is tall, everything kind of gets in the way, it's not very flat, it's hard to see stuff at a distance, but persevere and you'll find them. The minimap really helps in this regard because then you can see the little yellow dots and know, hey, something's alive in that particular direction. Trying to lure sheep anywhere is always tricky business. They don't always want to follow, and sometimes you just outpace them even if you are holding wheat. I told them this was tricky and to stay away from the lava. Sadly, one of them had other ideas for his brethren, who then became tonight's dinner. Such is the circle of life. We'd wrangle these guys back into the pen and have more than enough to go ahead and fill the slots we need and breed up some additional more. Things were looking pretty good. The sun was getting close to setting on day 88, but I wanted to get this thing up and going and make sure that I had no additional problems getting these sheep into the pens. Dragging sheep along with the lead works actually the best. In fact, you can travel pretty quickly with it and not have it break. At least if you're not stupid and you start randomly clicking on things to break the lead. That happened on more than a few occasions for me. I had a straggler follow, and I really put to test whether or not this bridge was baby-proof. I kind of had a notion that maybe the baby sheep would fall through the gap, but it didn't, and I was happy for that. In retrospect, I probably should have just made a much shorter bridge and a doorway leading out from where my bed is to where the farm is, instead of doing this massive U-shape whatever to get them over to this location. But you live and learn. Getting sheep into the pen isn't really tricky, it just takes a little bit of practice. I tried hopping into the hole that I wanted them to go into, but getting back out would knock them off the block that they would jump up on, and that's where I needed them to be so I could push them from behind. Getting on top above it works far better, because then they'll hop up onto the block, you can then make a massive jump over the top of them and push them from behind into the holding area, and then place a clear block on top, completing the, I don't want to say trap, but I think you know where this is going. It was quickly getting nightfall. We'd get little guy into his pen and then start off day 89 doing more of the same, grabbing sheep and luring them over to their new home. They're going to be happy. They've got way more grass in their new home than they had in the holding pen. And with the last sheep put into position here, the farm was ready and was already working and pulling out dividends for us. We were getting wool at a pretty steady clip, but I wanted more. Why stop at 5 sheep when I could easily double and expand this farm to 10? All that was going to take was clearing out a little bit more room over here. And that's what we did for day 89. We'd clear this space, build a platform, and start work on our expansion project. This farm is easy to scale, and you can simply make it as long or as big as you want it to be. You can even get some curve railing here and have it double back on itself over just a little ways. The opportunities are endless. Just make sure you have enough powered rail for your hopper cart to go back and forth without slowing down too much. It would take the better part of day 90 for the building to continue and the expansion to be complete, but production came to a halt because I no longer had any bows or string to make bows to be able to make more dispensers. So I thought I'd get clever and get myself a Fletcher. In theory, once leveled up to rank 2 and rank 4, they should be able to sell bows and enchanted bows, respectively. That's in theory. No, I'm not trying to take a nap and cuddle with a villager. I just misclicked. Pay no attention. Carry on. I originally had a good feeling about this guy. He was a go-getter. He was an explorer. He was going to give me the bows that I needed. All I was going to need to do was level him up. And I'll be honest, I hadn't ever really purposefully leveled up a Fletcher before, aside from some random trades here and there in RLCraft. I wasn't quite sure what exactly it was going to take, so I didn't re-roll his trades, and I kept everything with the original sticks. I figured sticks weren't too bad. 32 at a clip, we should be able to get this guy up to rank 2 in no time. Once up to rank 2, imagine my surprise that he didn't offer to sell me any bows, but instead he wanted me to take regular arrows and convert them into sparkly arrows. Well, that meant I was going to need chickens. Why? Because chickens drop feathers. And we need a lot of feathers. Like, just a really lot of feathers. All the feathers. So after securing said feathers and converting them into arrows, we then converted them into shinier arrows. A lot of them. And leveling would go unabated, and as he'd upgrade from gold to emerald status, we were excited to find out he wanted to convert more arrows into other arrows. And just straight up buy feathers. 23 for 1 emerald. That's a complete and total ripoff. We would finish leveling this guy up the hard way, little by little with stick trades. Until master level, when lo and behold, going from emerald to diamond, you guessed it, more shiny arrows. Not a single bow to be had. Is this normal for vault hunters? I don't know. But I wasn't going to be deterred. I had forgotten, and then I remembered that I had come across an abandoned mine shaft, and this particular one had a bunch of cobwebs in it. I figured, well, hey, I can collect the cobwebs, and that'll give me enough string to go ahead and make the bows that I need. And so that's what we did. We went about collecting the cobweb. Only, we were doing it with shears, not with a sword. It didn't really dawn on me that the shears were actually giving me cobwebs and not string. I can be an idiot sometimes. But we did uncover a spider spawner, and this absolutely would give me all the string that I would need. And it's a cave spider spawner at that, so you know what? It's not too bad. The experience is pretty good. We were going to need to come back here and do something with this later, but not for now. Focus on the mission at hand. String, string, and more string. Oh, well, you look at that. You break them with a sword, you get string. Boy, that's so much easier. I could have been done by now. Live and learn. I'm an idiot at this game sometimes. And with enough string in hand, it was time to head back for the end of, oh my gosh, it's day 92, already day 93, 1 a.m. We have no time to waste. Can't sleep through the night. We've got to get this going. So we'd make enough bows, and with the bows, we would make some dispensers. Pretty standard stuff. Nothing exciting here, folks. I'm sorry. We'd then place said dispensers in our new farm and prime them with the shears. And after this, all we'd need to do is then get our observers placed underneath, get our redstone set up on the back side of the observers, and then of course bring the rest of the sheep and complete our farm. 10 different sheep, all happily munching on grass, making me wool. You gotta love it. It's already towards the end of day 94. What were we using all this wool for again? Oh yeah, that's right. For making beds so we can go down and blow up the entire nether. I'm not entirely certain why I was in such a big rush, but in my hastiness I went and did something kind of stupid. I said I need a mending book to put on my pickaxe, so I tried to wake this guy up. Although I did it very aggressively, and then he jacked up the prices. Again, slow down. Do things the right way, and you'll have a much easier time of it. I was so upset I decided to put an end to our sheep repopulation program. Aggressively. Bye, sheep. At least now maybe I'd get a little bit of peace and quiet as we lay down to begin day 95. Nope. We would then spend the next 5 days from day 95 all the way to day 100 systematically blowing up chunks of the nether in search of ancient debris. There's nothing tricky or fancy about the method here. This is pretty standard stuff, and I was happy to see that in Vault Hunters at least that this has remained unchanged. More or less, stand at around Y level 14, dig in front of you 4 or 5 squares, place a bed, use said bed, watch it explode, question marks, and then profit. It's not every chunk that you end up finding one. These can range anywhere from 8 to 22, but it does give you a pretty good view of most of the chunk area, and we ended up finding enough ancient debris for our purposes. And what is that purpose? Well, to cover ourselves in ancient debris, of course, all of our armor, and our pickaxe. For those too lazy to do the math, I'll go ahead and hand it out to you. It takes 20 pieces of ancient debris to be able to smelt enough scrap to then convert into ingots to be able to cover all 4 armor slots and 1 tool of your choosing. I decided to go with the pickaxe. I think it's going to be more useful for me. The sword, I can wait. Wasn't going to be an absolute necessary, and I'm pretty confident that in full netherite, with a bow, with a sword, we'll be able to take out the Ender Dragon, no problem whatsoever. Single-handedly, the most annoying thing about this entire process is dealing with what you see on the screen right now. Random pools of lava that can spawn when you blow up an area. You don't even know that they're going to exist until the space is vacated because of your bed explosion. It's not difficult to get rid of them, it's just time-consuming, and a bit of a pain. But, you know, if it was easy, I guess everybody would do it. But there's no time to waste complaining about it. We spent enough time at the beginning of this 100 days complaining, I think, for the entire playthrough. We really did kind of bring this one down to the wire. We're sitting on day 100. It's somewhere almost 9 o'clock or so in the evening, and we're just waiting on the last couple pieces of ancient debris to smelt into scrap so that we can make our netherite ingots and get the rest of our gear enchanted. Now, I've definitely played some Minecraft where I've been down to beat the Ender Dragon in less than 100 days, but certainly not with full netherite, completely enchanted gear with max enchantments. A tip of the hat to the creators of Vault Hunter, making the vanilla experience one that was kind of refreshing and new altogether. Hooray, we did it! Covered in debris before the end of day 100. The task has been completed successfully, and I appreciate everybody hanging out for this first 100 days. I hope you guys liked what you saw. We'll be back with another 100 days. This has been OldBeardedGaming saying thank you, and until next time, cheers. Take care, everybody.